Welcome to Church is Canceled. I'm your co-host, Brett, and today I am joined by the Spa Investor. Hello, Spa Investor.
I am number one, Spa Investor.
Also known as Danny. How you doing
That's right.
today?
Today we are going to be talking about so this is where our podcast starts taking a turn into it was kind of light and breezy and fun. And now some of these scandals that we're going to get into start reaching into the territory of, ugh.
Yeah.
That's ugh.
It gets a little dark.
Yeah.
And a little gross, which is where we just really thrive personally. Yeah.
Yes, two people. This is where we're going to make I have some very dark humor, obviously. So today we are talking about Ravi Zacharias. He was a Indo-Canadian apologist. Now, Brett, can you give me an explanation of what apologetics is? And then I have an anecdote, but I think first maybe you want to give us your cliche of the week.
Yeah, I'm gonna share a cliche of the week before I give you that definition. The cliche of the week, Christian cliche of the week.
Yeah.
You know, we've entered the month of December.
Yes.
As evidenced by my personalized stocking on the wall in my Brazil soccer jersey to support them in the World Cup. We've entered the month of December. So now is the time of year when you're going to start to hear Christians say, we know the real reason for the season.
That's right. It's
the
not because
real reason for the season. It's not about presents, Spa Investor.
That's right.
Okay? It's not about Christmas trees. It's not about lights.
It's about Toyotathon. Or Honda Day. I don't know. It depends on your denomination and theology.
The real reason for the season, this one I just think is funny when Christians say it. Because they're saying, oh, we know Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus is the real reason for the season.
Yeah.
And they have absolutely no knowledge that Jesus was likely born sometime in the springtime, not at all in the winter. This is clearly evidenced by some things that were going on in the Bible.
Yeah, I
when the wise men go to visit him.
I think there are secular academics who would actually say it's very possible that the Christ was born in the latter months of the year, but it doesn't matter. Here's what I love about this time of year, though, right? And this is what Christians need to get back to. This is winter solstice, and it's common understanding amongst Christians.
That's how it all started.
That we took what was a pagan tradition, the tree and, Easter, the eggs and the rabbits and all that stuff. And we just took them and we adopted them and said, these are ours now.
Yeah,
and that's how I believe Christians should operate in every sector of society. Like I wasn't kidding. In the coming years, Christians should be like, no, Toyotathon's ours now. Right?
We invented that.
That's ours, right? In the Bible, it speaks of one Accord, Honda Accord. That's ours.
Yes.
Yeah.
A message.
Toyota has recently brought back a famed nameplate, the Crown, right? So, Crown of Thorns, Jesus, it's all ours. All of this is ours now. That's all I'm saying. Okay, that's how you dominate a culture. You say this is ours, right? Twerking, ours.
Yeah, we definitely do need to take twerking.
Yeah.
That needs to happen. But yeah, the reason for the season, that one bothers me. That one gets me. The real reason for the season should be that we just take everything over.
But here's the thing. For that reason, I enjoy that phrase because the reason for the season, Christians were going to appropriate. It doesn't matter what. Oh, you have the Hindu holiday festival of lights. That's ours now. Because in the Old Testament it says God created heavens and the earth. It says He created light, festival of lights. That's ours, right?
Oh, it's good.
Ramadan.
It's good.
It's going to be ours too. Soon.
We're going to take
what that is.
We're going to take it all.
Right.
That's our cliche for the week. So
Right.
back to what we're talking about, Ravi Zacharias. So he
Right.
was an apologist. An apologist is an individual who seeks to use reason and critical thinking and logic to prove their faith, their belief. They don't have to be Christian. There are Muslim apologists. There are even atheist apologists. It's just someone who tries to give evidence to support their religion or their set of beliefs. So Ravi Zacharias is a pretty well-known, extremely well-known apologist.
Right.
He would put forth logical arguments for belief in the Christian faith. He would debate atheists, all that sort of thing. So this one, hearing about this scandal affected me somewhat personally, because apologetics helped me when I was in a darker time and possibly giving up on the faith altogether.
Really?
It was apologetics that helped me to see that I could not deny the existence of a God. Ravi was never really one of my go-to guys. I kind of would encounter him here and there. William Lane Craig was one of the main guys I always listened to.
That's a heck of a name, William Lane Craig. Oh,
yeah,
3 first names. That's not a good sign.
And actually, we'll get to later. William Lane Craig is one of the apologists who stepped forward and signed a statement asking specific members of the Ravi Zacharias International Ministries team to formally repent and apologize for not addressing better what they may or may not have even known was going on with Ravi.
Right.
Which was what, Danny? What was he doing?
Well, little anecdote, in Indian tradition, I referred to him as Ravi Uncle. The name comes first, then the title. And I was visiting him once in Atlanta, and he earlier in the day he had said, "Today you're going to become a man," and I didn't really. I was 14 at the time. I didn't quite understand that, and he took me over to his Touch of Eden spa.
I love that it was named the Touch of Eden too. This guy.
Yeah. And he, his masseuses all lined up, and he said to pick one. They all cost the same. That, of course, never happened, and I don't know Ravi Zacharias. I never knew him, and he's not my uncle. But I'm just trying to inject a little bit of levity into what is a very dark thing. Frederick Anthony Ravi Kumar Zacharias. I've never seen a more Hispanic-sounding Indian name in my life. Yeah, there's too many names, bro. But he cut himself down to Ravi Zacharias, which is interesting. But there's several accusations here, and an internal investigation suggests that these accusations are credible, and the accusations are that he was using women at his at these various facilities that he owned,
these spas, massage places,
for tickle party favors, and also the part of the story that where I go, okay, that's not that. I mean, it's not good. But then he was also paying for tuition and housing for women in foreign countries, where he was using ministry funds and ministry resources to buy them homes and to basically keep them.
He was helping them. He was doing ministry.
Well, somebody was ministering to somebody. I don't know how one would quantify what's happening, but and that part of it to me is devious enough that I kind of like. I like, if you just kind of can forget that there's a victim here. I go, oh, I like that he used ministry money to buy real estate. I think that's cool. I think that part was cool. Like bought foreign real estate, but
he was a spa investor. He was an investor.
I mean, and then there's I don't want to forget this. I'm just going to say it now. The part of it that made me go, oh, that's gross, is not even any of this stuff. Okay. It's that he would pray with some of these women afterwards, and he would say, and this is their account of events. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just assuming it is. Particularly the young lady. There was a young lady in Thailand who he was putting through college, like nursing school or something, and he would visit Thailand, and she would perform acts on him that he requested or what have you. Services. And he would pray with her and say, this is God rewarding me for a life of service. And he would pray with them. And it was that part to me is like, listen, if you want to be a sexual deviant, I have less judgment on you than when you're a sexual deviant. And then on top of that, you try to spiritualize your, like, dude, if you're just a horny guy, just be like, I'm a horny old man, touch my pee-pee.
Right.
Like that's less offensive to me than being like, no, this is God rewarding me. Like, listen, I think that's going to offend God in so many more ways than just being like, yeah, I'm a horny guy. What do you want me to like? And this is, and I'll say this much about what in regards to, kind of rewinding here a bit, but in regards to apologetics, I kind of don't care for it. And the reason I would say that is, I shouldn't say I don't care for it. I don't think it serves the purpose apologists believe it serves. And the reason I would say
why not?
Here's why. When I've seen people who have had a radical conversion to the Christian faith, it has rarely been the academic arguments for Christ. And I think once you become a Christian, I think those little building blocks help you build faith, and it helps you adopt it as real. But I don't think that it is the point of conversion for most people. However, I think it is used, apologetics is used by, seminary hopefuls, 19-year-old undergrad seminary hopeful neckbeards who just want to defeat people in internet arguments, or the effect of that, whatever. I mean, the effective version of that in real life is like, I just want to say, I want to prove you right. I want to have a cudgel to bash you over the head. And the reality is, I've watched one particular case I'm thinking of, a friend who we used to watch MMA fights with. Watching him come to faith was simply a process of another friend of ours just being in his life and loving him and not having an agenda. And I think apologetics has an agenda. I think it has a place, but I think when apologetics is the wrong way to use apologetics is to try and get people to convert because there's this intellectual argument. Whereas I think that what people really need is people who love them without an agenda. And if you love people with the agenda of trying to get them to convert, you'll not only rage quit on the conversion, you'll just not be a good friend to them. And then they're going to be like, so this guy was only here to try to get me to convert to his weird deal, and then I didn't do it, and then he's gone. So
I see what you're saying. I think apologetics is useful, like you said, as a strengthening tool for people who already believe. But I think it may be a good way to convert certain people. I don't know that, the way that I always thought of it was like atheists.
Yeah.
We're not going to convert atheists by having them read the Bible because they don't want to.
Well, it's not just
they don't believe that anything in there is real or
Correct.
that it matters, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to use arguments. You're not going to be able to use any evidence from the Bible. So to me, it's always been useful to say, well, wow, why does this even make sense if you take away the scripture, you take away the text that you would normally use to support it? Say, well, what logical argument do you have to support why you believe what you believe? And that's where I think apologetics comes in. So if you have people who are all the show me the science, show me the evidence, there's straight up atheists, I just want to know the facts. Right. And you're like, here they are, and the facts are stronger than what their facts were. I think that's valuable.
I'm not saying it's invaluable, but like I was saying, I just feel like my view of it is that we use it as this cudgel, as a bat as this baseball bat to beat people down of like these are the facts.
Sure.
It's like I don't know that what's that saying? Not Malcolm Gladwell. I forget who it is. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I know we already had our cliche. We already had our cliche.
That's gonna be my next cliche.
Yeah, oopsie. Well, we'll put that in later. I mean, we'll discuss that. But so when it comes to Ravi Zacharias, I think what happened for me, and the reason I always never liked him was it was always like, how do I say this? Really, really sweet girls, white girls mostly, like, oh my goodness, I'm sure you love Ravi Zacharias. I'm like, no, I can't stand the guy. And I never found him to be a particularly like. I think that he had the way he talked, he had a sense of pacing that I found irritating. Like, just get to your point. Like, there's a lot of nonsense. Like, there's just that's every apologist that I can't, and probably why I don't like them a lot. But I mean, just saying, like, I found that irritating. But so what is there's something that there's a little light here that I think is on the darkness, which is he had an acolyte or a kid who kind of came up under him named Nabil Qureshi. Nabil Qureshi was a physician, Pakistani born, devout Muslim family, and he just through conversation with a friend from college became a Christian and became an apologist, and he was a very effective apologist to the Muslim community because he himself was a former Muslim, and he was able to point out he does that great. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2017 from stomach cancer. And all of Ravi's misdeeds came to light 3 years later. And the silver lining, in my view, was he didn't have to watch this, right? Like, because he probably, at the very least, becoming a Christian as a Pakistani from a devout Muslim family, I can't imagine it strengthens your relationship with your parents. My assumption is it's going to make it worse, right?
Yeah, or just terminate it.
Yeah, and and that he was able to find an uncle in many ways of someone whose culture was similar enough and understood what he was going to go through. And I know that he referred to him as his uncle, and I thought it sucks that he got stomach cancer and died. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying thank goodness because I don't know about you, but if that's everything that I had gone through, and then the guy that I looked up to turned out to be a complete scumbag, I would be like, uh-oh. Like, and then how do you go back to your family, like, and then be like, yeah, sorry, I guess he, right? Because it's like if some Islamic cleric took on a 10-year-old, wife, it's not like that. That's not a problem for them, but this is weird.
It's hard, but it doesn't. I don't think it invalidates. Just like all these other scandals you've looked at,
right?
Does it completely invalidate the work that he done and the lives that he affected? I don't think so. Back to more on the scandal, though.
Right.
To get more down into the darkness. So there, the way this all started is there was I think there's one massage therapist who came forward after he passed away because she was like, wait, no one. She thought other people had just like come forward and said something, and no one did. So she got a lawyer who is an atheist lawyer. I think it's important to point that out.
Right.
And they had over 50 witnesses, I guess, step forward to corroborate some of these allegations.
Oopsie daisy.
Some of the allegations are that he touched these massage therapists without consent. Right. He would ask for sexual favors.
Correct.
He would thwack it in front of them and ask for nudes.
Yeah.
They found over 200 contacts in his mobile devices for massage therapists.
So he would do a Louis C.K. and a John Crist.
He did both.
He did both of those. That's an oops right there, my boy.
Both. Over 200 contacts. To me, this signal, that level of excess signals a deeper issue.
Right.
That I think, especially at that level of authority and leadership in the church.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say he's not a leader in the church. He's a leader in parachurch, to be more specific.
Parachurch, sure.
Right.
Not with any specific institution. He had his own ministry, but
right.
That level of influence, I think you have people who feel like they can't reach out for help. Like, this guy just needed to be going to like meetings or something. He needed to have a therapist. He needed to be working this out. That 200 different massage therapists, you're flying all over the world to get it yanked.
Yeah.
You need to do something about this. That's just the
Right.
level of.
Well, and then the atheist attorney self-published a book, and in it he dove deeper into Mr. Zacharias, and it turns out that he had lied several times about his credentials, about having PhDs he didn't have, and that's no good. Don't do that. It's not that hard.
It's true and not true, that allegation, because he had honorary degrees, honorary PhDs.
Listen,
it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing as having earned a PhD in something. As someone who has a doctorate in Americology, a field of study that I pioneered, I'm offended. And it's true that no institution recognizes my work. That is neither here nor there. I've done the work, and so I find it offensive when people like Ravi Zacharias pretend to have credentials they don't have. I worked hard to fake these credentials. Okay, I've written not one, not two, but 3 books, and have another one on the way.
Where can you find those books if you're interested?
You can go to throwmolotov.com. Most of them are up there, and they're also on Amazon. You can just look up Dr. D. Bombay, Ending Fat Phobia, Ending Hate Speech, Ending Toxic Masculinity are the 3 that are out right now, and we have a forthcoming one as well. Might be out by the time this is out, called Everything is Fake. These are, this is my life's work here in many ways. But no, getting back to this thing was like, I wonder how much of this, and this is a phenomenon I've witnessed, or I've recognized, not just in Christian apologetics or church or ministry. It's across the board. Is how many people are able to rise to extraordinary levels based on nothing. And we know some
Mark Driscoll. For example, one we already covered.
And Mark Driscoll has a deep understanding of the Bible. I might not agree with it, but he has a deep understanding of the Bible, right?
But no formal training.
Of course,
the guy didn't go to seminary. He didn't have a Bible degree from a university, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. And that to me is irrelevant. But what I mean is, like, this has nothing to do with church or anything. But recently there was the FTX scandal, which is a financial scandal. But the reason I bring that up is there are people out there building things they're building houses on sand. And they're getting away with it. And to me, as someone who wants to build things,
but the waves always come, spa investor. They always come to wash away that foundation of sand.
Yeah, and that is something to me that when there's a particular entrepreneur you and I know, right? And
yes.
And
he's built his life on a beach of sand.
Yeah, but I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating to watch. He's, to see this kind of thing. But what I find fascinating about this particular case is that he got to die before any of this, before he had to face the music. Like, he was in his 70s. Do you happen to know what he passed from?
No, I don't.
Okay.
His wife said he was on a lot of medication and was having hallucinations and things. Does it make it better or worse that he never confessed to anything? Like, don't you think about what kind of individual, especially a pastor or someone in ministry,
right,
does bad things allegedly, but it seems this is pretty credible. Seems like this stuff happened.
Well, let's put it this way.
And then doesn't admit. We've got coming out as we record this today, the Ted Haggard one.
Yeah.
Ted Haggard admitted to the stuff that he did.
Ted Haggard admitted to the stuff he did, after saying it never happened. This guy's out of his mind. But the point is, at some point, he took responsibility.
At some point, Ravi lived his whole life never said that he was doing any of this stuff.
Right.
You pass away in the Christian faith, you kind of believe you're going to have to give an account for what you've done. Imagine being someone who started a massive ministry like that. Well, how's that conversation going to go? God, I did like millions of people though.
Right.
They're on the team because of me. I know I was getting the handies here and there, but
right. That is a interesting conversation, and this is where I think like authenticity matters. This is where I think like being truthful and straightforward about whatever it is you're quote unquote struggling with.
But true.
I think that struggle. Because we all have things where we all have issues where we fall short of God's highest plan for us, and I think that if we can just have some honesty, and to me, it's like, I don't know that you need to necessarily be public with it unless you have a public ministry, and in which case I think you might have to be. Yeah. I think the fact that he got away scot-free, like without having to face the music, but then his daughter who runs the ministry had to shut it down.
She rebranded it.
But I don't think it's ever going to be what it was before, because
she rebranded it and called it Encounter. Oh God, I love it.
Yeah.
The Touch of Eden. We're getting rebranded to Encounter. Imagine how all those women who had all those encounters feel.
Encounter, Touch of Eden. Our new ministry lets you encounter the touch of Eden.
Geez, I think this is maybe a good point to introduce our sponsor for this episode.
Oh my goodness. We have been blessed over here at Churches Canceled.
Always are.
That, and with our partner, All Pod Media, our production partner, that, they're able to bring us such amazing sponsors today. Wow. This is real special. Gift of Gold. Wow. Our sponsor for today is a unique gold gifting business opportunity that gives you the ability to earn real gold simply by giving gold. I don't know what is more Christian than giving gold. This is God's money. This is how people in the gold industry refer to gold. It's God's money because God made gold. This is an incredible business that includes an industry disrupting pass up affiliate sales model. You can build wealth just by giving gold with Gift of Gold. Now, if you
give the gold with Gift of Gold.
What's that?
Where do you get the gold from to give the gold?
Gift of Gold.
Where you have to buy the gold to give the gold?
That's correct. And then someone else gives you gold.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a gold gifting affiliate program. Now, Brett, stop saying in the chat that this is a Ponzi scheme and we should do that because they're paying us money.
Is it shaped like this?
That is their industry disrupting pass up affiliate sales model. Okay.
Shaped like a triangle. Okay.
Yes, maybe not. You can go to Gift of Gold today, and when you get started by using promo code canceled, you get 10% off the initial affiliate program cost, which is $100,000. So don't worry, they're going to help you get credit and do all that sort of stuff to get going. But
it's all financed through FTX, so
that's correct. Actually, no problem. I don't know why you said that like it's a joke. Just because FTX is in receivership at this time doesn't mean that it doesn't work. But that is our sponsor for today. I think it's incredible.
Awesome. Really blessed to have Gift of Gold.
That's right. Oh, I just got a text message from them. It is no longer giftofgold.com. They are now giftofgold.ru. So you have to go to giftofgold.ru. Okay. Yeah, they had apparently some issues with their servers. So giftofgold.ru.
You got that text in Cyrillic.
Yeah, it was in Cyrillic. We're from Minnesota. There's lots of Russians. So
it's completely understandable and explainable.
Absolutely.
Danny, I just want to comment. I did the math there quick in my head, which took several minutes.
Yeah.
What a blessing, as we said, to have Gift of Gold as a sponsor. The 10% off discount of the $100,000, which is not even that big of a startup fee for gifting gold. 10% off, that's $10,000. That's a deep discount. I don't know of any other place you could find a discount that deep.
I mean, we literally are putting $10,000 in your pocket, basically, if you look at it from perspective that's conducive to that conclusion. So, like I said, a blessing.
I would agree. Yeah. I don't have too much more to say about Ravi. There was one thing we didn't cover yet. His lawsuit relationship with this woman, Lori Ann Thompson, this Canadian woman, who he supposedly met her and her husband at a gathering
conference or something.
Conference they did, and they got involved in a sexting type relationship, where he would ask for photos and there was phone sex and all this.
Can I just interject something here? I consider myself a prolifically heterosexual individual. I don't get it. Can someone explain this? Like, what is the point of getting on the phone? Like, I don't get it. Like, there's better things.
Never been in a long distance relationship. Okay.
Well, I've never been in any relationship that lasts more than 2 months. But I'm just saying that what I don't understand is, hey, buddy, he had plenty of money. You can just go buy a separate phone, a separate device. And
he had multiple.
He did?
He did. One of the articles I was reading specifically said that he would get additional cell phones that he would not bill under his ministry's budget.
See? Indian smarts there.
Right.
I'm just saying there is plentiful. This is a problem for our society, but this is just a reality. There's plenty of free smut on the internet. Yes. I don't understand what's interesting about here's a married woman or a woman that you know personally where you could what's the point of seeing her nipple when you can just go see any old nipple on the internet and gratify yourself that way? Whereas why involve this person? It's like if they just found out that he was a dirty old man with an iPhone full of porno. No, like it's sad. It's still a problem. We're still going to have the conversation about it, but I think it's less of an issue if it's like here's a married woman and he pressured her to send nudes to him, which I don't.
That's what she says. Yeah, and she says that she was pressured, and she's of course now the victim, even though what she was doing, and she was married to a guy who was also Christian, so she's cheating on her husband.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think he's the ultimate victim here, everyone. But of course, she says she's the victim, and they came out and they sued Ravi's ministry. Yeah, they were trying to get like $5 million out of him originally. I think they settled for $250,000 because he countersued.
Can I tell you something? How pissed are you if you're that husband? Like, my wife's nips are worth $5 million. They're worth $250. Come on, like that's a bummer, right?
That is pretty upsetting. But I also saw his wife, so I think they did well for themselves.
Okay, I don't. Yeah, like that one. And it appears there's another one of that similar situation where Ravi got a woman to send inappropriate photos, and that was another. But it turns out that, as in the course of the investigation, because Arzim brought in a outside firm to investigate.
Arzim's the name of his ministry.
Yeah, Ravi Zacharias International Ministry. At this point, do we have to say international anymore? Isn't everything? I mean,
yes,
it's all international. Like, why are we saying this? But what I found not perplexing, but like this is now becoming a theme in our podcast. Guys getting other people to sign NDAs, like non-disclosure agreements, which again, I'm just going to continue to point this out because every time this comes up, I have to point this out. It's literally in the Bible, Ravi. Okay. It's literally in the Bible, Ted. It's literally in the Bible, Mark. Everything you do in the darkness comes to the light. Okay. Which is why I'm constantly hedging with friends and family. Like, I'm trying to tell you, I am the guy you think I am. I'm also a scumbag. It's going to come out at some point. Okay, I'm not going to be
Everyone thinks you're a scumbag anyways. Everyone knows you are what you say you are.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that I'm not going to be the person to open those floodgates, but I'm just assuming it's going to happen, right? And I don't know if by saying it's going to happen, I've now hedged. It's kind of like the Bible tells us no one knows when the Christ will return. So if we just keep setting dates, he's not returning on those dates. You know what I'm saying? Like, we create
he's coming today. He's coming today, everyone. He's coming today.
And I'm just saying, like, there's a handful of things I'd like to accomplish before he arrives. So if we could avoid that scenario, I'd still like to become a crypto billionaire, even if it's for a short period of time. Nonetheless, what I'm driving at is this all comes to the light. Who are you fooling? Like, you can't watch all of these. I mean, fine, he's a little older, but he saw Jim Baker go down. He saw Jimmy Swaggart go down, right? So why do you think that you would be the arrogance it takes to believe you're going to be the exception? That is some Joel Osteen stuff, right there.
As far as he knows, though, I mean, he died before any of this came out. So as far as he knows, he got away with it.
Well, let me ask you this question. This is a spiritual question. Do you think on the other side, whatever is on the other side of death before Christ returns, does he know? Does he know this? Like, it all blew up in his face on the way out?
Who knows?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm still pondering your question, from before, which was, is it worse that he kind of got off scot-free? And I'm starting to think, nah. I mean, here's why. At least his wife, at least his daughter, at least the people around him didn't have to deal with him denying allegations and pretending like, because on some level he's a guy of a certain amount of authority. They don't have to pretend to his face that he's not a scumbag. Sure. They can just be like, yeah, I mean, but how much?
I want to note that his wife defends him.
Yeah.
To this day.
Correct.
That was one thing I thought was interesting. None of the articles had any comment on what she had. It wasn't. I found something later in like 2021 where she was saying that it wouldn't even be possible for him to do any of these things. She never even saw a whit of evidence that any of this would have or could have occurred. I don't think that's interesting. What does she have to gain by defending him if it's all true at this point in time?
That is interesting. And I mean, in many ways, for people who are in a traditional marriage, like they had what would from the outward seem like a traditional marriage. You didn't have a job or career outside of the home. Your husband's legacy is your legacy, right? And so she's trying not to, and maybe, hey, it's just she genuinely loved the man and he was nothing but good to her. And maybe the reason, and this is going to come up in an episode later that we're going to do, maybe the reason he was able to be so good and kind and took care of her in whatever way he did was because he was doing all the weird stuff on the outside. Like, he was getting the other needs met outside of the home. And that's kind of what created a balance for them, even though that sounds wacky. I think that's probably possible.
I want to tell you what I think the worst part of it is to me.
Okay.
You already talked about what you thought the worst part is the kind of the spiritual abuse of it, where he's exposing himself to these women and then saying, you can't tell anyone because then all the souls I've helped save will be lost to hell, or whatever he was saying to manipulate them.
Or that Davis woman, I think it's Davis or whatever, that the woman that settled out of court for $250K.
Mm-hmm. Thompson.
Thompson. Said, apparently said, I'm going to unalive myself if you tell people.
He did threaten
to that's manipulative, bro. Like, that's why I'm not condoning this behavior. I'm just saying, if you just use the internet smut, you don't have to abuse and manipulate people. It's a parasocial relationship. They don't know that you're watching.
I think the worst part of all of this is the element of trafficking. There were allegations, right? So it's one thing to get a handy when you're not supposed to get a handy. That's one thing.
Not supposed. Let's not start throwing.
When you're married and you're Christian, you're not supposed to get a handy from anybody other than the wife. He's out here getting paid for handies, supposedly. Okay. That's never an allegation, but I'm just like, I know how things work in this realm. We know what was happening.
Okay, let me just, again, you're going to continue. I just want to interject just one word, concubine. Continue.
So, it's one thing to have inappropriate touching. It's another thing to have the types of allegations that were being made. There were some who said they knew they would see coming in and out of his parlors women from overseas, from Thailand and India and different places, and they kind of were there for a little bit and then not really sure what their status was or what was going on. It was known that he owned, what did he own? He owned a couple properties or maybe even massage places in Thailand. And he owned something there. I'm not sure if it was just real estate where he stayed or.
I think the ministry owned homes in Thailand is what I understood.
He went there a lot. We all know what happens in Thailand. We know that the tickle party industry is far less regulated. There's a lot more things that can happen, and
I think the official definitely, like in Thailand, sex work and sex tourism is illegal, but that's what I understand anyway. But it's also a huge part of their economy, so they just look the other way. So that's what I understand.
So, but we also know that the women who participate in these sorts of jobs are often there against their own will for whatever reason. I think it's fair to assume along the way he probably encountered a woman who had been there against her will, had been trafficked, or was doing it to feed a habit of some sort. Who knows? This is all conjecture on my part, but I think that I'm like within the realm of being probably 80% or more correct that at some point in time this happened. And then further to say that like he would pay for their housing and education and then say, if you don't give me this, you don't get funding. That is trafficking. Like that's
so my definition,
you're paying for it.
Yeah, my definition of trafficking is a very strict definition.
Well, that's not trafficking. That's paying for sex. But
I mean, okay, if that's paying, aren't we all paying in some way or form?
Well, yes, of course.
Okay,
different conversation.
That's episode 9. I would say like trafficking, like if he moved people from one place to another, if he moved women from one country to another, or
even went to another country and paid for services to someone who was moving women around.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Yeah,
that is a problem.
Participating.
Yeah, and that is a contributing to the problem. Now, they may be again conjecture on our part. Hey, it might just be as simple as you're in a country with little to no economic mobility, little to no economic diversity, so it's difficult. You don't have a ton of skills to offer people. You have no way to build those skills, and it doesn't. Listen, you don't have to be forced into it necessarily at the point of a fire, like a gun to your head, to go. Well, I was like, I can work in a Nike factory for $2 an hour, or I can give Ravi Zacharias a handy and he's going to give my family a house, and he shows up every 6 months and all I got to do is say a weird prayer with him and, give him a handy and we're all good. So like you start doing the math in your head and you start going, well, I guess I'm just yanking this old Indian dude off, and Yep. But isn't that? I mean, is that I mean, let's be realistic. That's kind of where And I had a friend who was a minister. He was doing ministry overseas, and he was in Cambodia. And he's a more probably someone with more progressive sensibilities. And he said somebody in the United States, there was a group of kids complaining at a university about a Nike factory.
Mm-hmm.
So Nike closed the factory and moved it. And what happened to the women who worked in the Cambodian Nike factory? Well, they turned to prostitution because that was the only other skill that they could have to offer. And yes, working conditions weren't ideal. But the reality was Nike was giving them dormitories to live in. Yes, 5 to a room, sharing a bathroom, all of that stuff. None of that meets with the Western standard of living. But
right.
in Cambodia,
but maybe better than having to sell your body.
Probably going to go with it's a little better than pitching a tent around the factory, which he said was the case. Some of the women would live in tents near the factory or near, they would live in tents, and they were providing their body as, and not at numbers that you would go like, not, these aren't Bad Baby on OnlyFans numbers. Okay. These are not, so when we put things in, when we compare something to something, if we say the conditions are bad, for this Thai woman, the conditions are poor, that she is having to do this to Ravi Zacharias so that she has a place to live, sucks. But the alternative, I mean, this is not to excuse his behavior at all, but I mean, you got a nursing degree, you got a place to live for a couple of years, your family ate well. Yeah, so you touched an old man.
And that's the worst part to me.
Yeah.
Is the element that in somewhere along the lines, it's likely he probably participated in trafficking, which I think is like, we talked about trafficking before, whether he actually trafficked people or he just paid someone to get something that he supported it financially without knowing.
Yeah.
I think is bad. We talked about that before. We don't think there's anybody out there, even the traffickers, who are going, yeah, what I'm doing is morally right.
Yeah.
This is good.
Nobody.
So
and I consider
that's
myself
the most detestable part.
Yeah, like I consider myself to be someone who can emotionally detach from a situation and look at it objectively from a purely economic standpoint. And I still don't see a situation where I'm slamming the door on a cargo ship, on a cargo container on a cargo ship full of people going, this is fine.
Right.
Like, I don't, I mean, like that's I don't think anybody's doing that thinks it's cool.
I do have a question though. I have a question.
Yeah.
So this exact situation, guy liking to go to places to get massages and get touched inappropriately, flying overseas to do it. This actually happened to someone that I met personally and knew involved in ministry in Minnesota. I'm not sure if you know.
Yep.
I think you know this.
Yeah.
You know this person. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it ever came out publicly, but they.
Yeah, so we don't need to say their name or anything.
Yeah, I'm not going to, but they admitted to someone who I know personally what was going on with them. Now, they were not married at the time. For a portion of the time that this was happening, they were single.
Mm.
Is it okay, Danny, for a single man to go get massages that may end with...
I mean, happily.
With
Yeah.
With his macaroni making some cheese, is that going to be okay?
Yeah.
I cringed as I said that.
Well, I mean, I think you had to say it though. I think it was there. This is an interesting question. I think this question, we're going to have an episode about men in church and that kind of thing. I'll be pretty honest here and say that. If we look at God's design and God's plan for us, I think we're well outside of that already as a society and a culture.
Sure.
And I think that while it's imperfect and I think it's not cool, I think that, I think the expectation that young men or even married men for that matter, that are they're going to be perfectly celibate until marriage and I think there's now a statistic out there from 2019 that says women aged 25 to 45, about half of them will be unmarried and childless by 2030, which the inverse of that statistic says, well, the men are also single too then, right?
Right.
And I think the expectation that they're just going to hold it in or whatever, I think that's a silly expectation. And I think there's a certain aspect of it that goes, do you really want to involve a woman where there's a relationship and now there's certain expectations of like, we're going to get married. Whereas if you just go to a place where it's a very transactional situation, we all know what we're doing here. You don't have to manipulate. You don't have to lie. Like, I'm here for this thing. I go, that's probably, listen, we're creating a hierarchy of preferable scenarios of unpreferable. Like this is unpreferred. This is suboptimal. But is it better that you go to church, meet a girl, and you try to have a sexual relationship with her? Or is it better that you go to a place, you have a transaction with a woman who gratifies you? I'm going to go, that's the better choice, because we're at least.
My concern again would be, is that woman there under her own free will? Or what are the circumstances?
Yeah, and that, and this is, again, going to be a very controversial statement to say on a podcast about church. There is a reason I am pro at least deregulating the Mary Magdalene industry, because
the sex industry.
I just think that, like, listen, I'm not condoning any behavior. I am in favor of maintaining a biblical standard in this regard.
You said deregulating, but isn't the kind of the idea out there, at least the libertarian idea, is you would legalize a lot of the things that are illegal, but you would highly regulate them to make sure that people are safe and healthy and there is consent, right?
I wouldn't worry about that, because I would think that an app or something would come along like a Lyft or an Uber that commoditizes this service and creates standards where there's regular, like, hey, you're going to get disabled on the app if you're not getting checked up regularly. If you're a user on the app and you abuse or something like that, you get downrated and you don't get picked up that way. And there's in other countries where it is legal, like Denmark, they make it. Listen, this is dark, but at the same time, it's happening. So my view is, how do we reduce or completely eliminate unwilling participants? And that is, and again, this is dark and I don't agree with it, but I'm just saying it exists. We're human. I'm a man. If you look at OnlyFans, for instance,
Sure.
If you're a gal who thinks, like, I'm going to put my nipples on, if you're putting your feet on the internet, I mean, no harm, no foul.
My feet are all over the internet.
Yeah. I have a 4 on WikiFeet, by the way. I'm just kidding. But the fact that I know that is going to get this entire podcast canceled. The fact that I know that the website exists is going to get this whole thing canceled. But I think that, there's this is a very unsavory topic in the church or Christian circles. And that is that there's a certain amount of pragmatism, I think. Like, let me just be honest. If I had a son, and I mean, the thing that I would tell my son is that you should wait till you're married to be with a woman. But at the same time, if my son was out there being a dog, I wouldn't be like, don't do that. I'd just be like, I wouldn't condone it. But at the same time, I'd be like, well, he's just doing what comes naturally to him. And in biblical times, these standards were, you're going to die when you're 35. The minute your pecker starts getting some blood to go through it, you're getting married off and starting a family. And, we just live in a different time. The standards still apply, but I think I think
we have this damaging thing where if sex is only okay within a marriage, and we have people who are not getting married in their 30s and even 40s, we offer them nothing. No practical sense of what to do with the sexuality that they have. The church gives them no options, no solutions, nothing good. And I think that's damaging. I think that leads to positions where guys have 200 massage therapist contacts in their phone.
Right.
Because that's what you do. You go from, this is hyper negative to this is, I'm hyper into all these different damaging things. And I think that's the church has to step up and take accountability and give single people better options with their sexuality, better teaching, better care.
Yeah, and the problem I think that we're going to have with that is we get into this weird territory of we're now measuring something, what is less damaging, not what is edifying to you, but what is less damaging. I think that becomes this really, I think people get like, because you have to have this weird, like, okay, is it okay to look at bikini pics and yank it, or is it better to have like OnlyFans subscriptions and you're spending $150 a month and you're screwing up your brain's sexual chemistry, which is a real problem, which is which is really bad for you. And it's going to make it harder for you to actually get married and have a girlfriend and have a wife and have a normal relationship with that woman. Or is it simply better for you to go to a massage parlor? Or is it simply better for you to find a woman and say, yeah, we're going to we aren't going to restrain ourselves so that we can at least have something that's natural and quote unquote healthy for you, even if it's out of the context of the appropriate context of marriage, which I still hold that value. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not trying to be gross, but I'm just saying, let's be practical. You know, men are horny, and there's no
women are too.
Well, fine, they are too. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that that we're in a quandary of sorts, and I think that I have an episode on our call sheet about this, so we'll probably dive deeper into it then. But I think as the church, I think it's better if we just do exactly what we're doing now. The church says we have this standard, we're maintaining the standard, and the rest of us do whatever we want.
That's the solution.
I don't think the solution is for the church to say you have all these options, because you don't, right? These are suboptimal choices. And if you make them, be an adult and make them. Don't make the choices with regret. Just do them. Just whatever choice you're going to make, just make the choice. And if somebody says you should regret this choice, don't. But I think because the problem is...
All right, yeah, so maybe saying the church has to come up with options like, okay, guys, for the Baptists, handies are okay, but blowies are not. For the Mormons, if you go in the back door, it's all right. Just don't go in the front. Like
Mormons and Catholics. The Catholics, they're also by the back door. Yeah.
Maybe we're not going to have the church say that, but at least the church could say, hey, look, we're at least going to be realistic and say that we know not all of you are going to wait until you're married. So here are some ways to have healthy relationships with other people, or
there's more than one study that
says more than say you're bad and you're going to hell for that.
Well, that's true. No, there is more than one study that says, I think it's a British one, that says 75% of young people, unmarried young people are active. So we out here, and but I think there's a lot. You just asked the question. There's a whole ball of wax, which is why it's a separate episode. But it does pertain here, I think, in some regard. So
sure. We maybe got a little off track of the Ravi Zacharias scandal.
No, I don't think we did. I think that's right on track. I think asking if that is, I think it's a fair question. I think that it's I hate that this is such a complicated matter, and I hate that this dude was so gross. And again, the part of it that was gross was like, let's sit down and pray about how you just yanked me off in Thailand because I'm paying for you to go to nursing school. But I think it's a fair question to ask, and I think that it's a difficult. We're threading a difficult needle, and I don't think there is a good answer. I think there's only degrees of bad answers.
Sure.
So, but do you think we covered everything that was in the Ravi Zacharias scandal? So let's break it down.
Yeah.
And him and his brother-in-law were investors in several spas and massage parlors throughout Atlanta, which he used as a point of abuse, where he would go there and yank himself in front of and ask for sexual favors.
Try to get more.
He used his ministry to pay for young women to get education throughout the world, and would house them and would show up at their houses and ask for favors. Oopsie daisy.
Yeah.
and had several phones that he did not build in the ministry, and would fill them up with hundreds of massage therapists.
And was sued for sexting.
Yes.
Thing with this woman.
Now, can you just enlighten me? What is the crime there? I mean, it's a civil lawsuit because I don't know how Canada works, but what's the crime here? Like,
I have no idea. I mean, I was listening to the Ms. Thompson's victim statement.
Yeah.
And she included things in there like saying that she, not from Ravi, but since the time she was born and raised, she had medical, educational, physical, and environmental neglect. Things I don't even, what's environmental
I don't know.
Neglect? It sounds like it could exist, but it would be extremely relative if it did.
I mean, is she First Nations or something? Like, is she Native?
So I don't know what the crime was. I think they had said things, and then her husband became suicidal, so there was emotional damage.
Oh boy.
And there was
so the crime was
actually what he paid out for.
Yeah.
He ended up paying that $250,000 spiritual abuse.
Oh.
So they got him for spiritual abuse. So that I think is probably really hard to prove, but you start by asking for $5 million and you just don't go away, you'll get a paycheck at some point. Especially if you got the pictures and texts on your phone, Which
is, hey buddy, don't do that. I mean, I know that he's an older guy, but they created this thing called Snapchat for this very purpose, right? Like the messages disappear, Ravi. And anyone else considering going down this path of destruction, don't leave any evidence. I guess that's so. To wrap this all up in a bow and conclude this episode on Ravi Zacharias.
Yeah.
Don't get caught. Be better.
He didn't get caught until after he died.
Maybe that's the lesson. That's the lesson. So John Christ has a podcast called Net Positive. So he tries to take a subject and find the net positive in it. And I think in this podcast, in this specific episode, the net positive is wait till you die to get caught.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just to sow some seeds of doubt at the very end, just to be fun.
Of course, yeah.
I did just to point out, the whole thing was started by an investigation done by an atheist lawyer.
Yeah.
Not exactly a nonpartisan here. He's maybe a little biased.
Who defended
his wife, Ravi's wife, has stepped forward to defend him and say that these are completely baseless allegations.
Right.
And this Ms. Thompson lady in Canada, Ravi said, of course, she just wants to get money out of me. This is extortion.
Correct.
There's that NDA, so we won't really know what occurred. His estate's not obligated to pay out or do anything else.
Right, and the NDA they couldn't penetrate the NDA because Arzim said the NDA has nothing to do with us. It actually has to do with his estate. And the estate is managed by Margie, which is his widow, and Margie will not let the NDA go to let her talk openly about what took place. So, yeah, that's fun fact on our way out here.
Yeah.
Arzim, or the wife, I forget who, was represented by Trevadian, which is the grandchild of Billy Graham.
Yeah.
So, but there was an investigation. So, his daughter said that it all, So, well, coming to the end of this podcast, I just want to let you know one last thing, Brett, before we go here. You're canceled. You're canceled. You are canceled.
Danny, unless you are able to seek professional counseling by a group of people or individual that has expertise in the area of spiritual abuse.
Correct.
Unless you're able to do that and you write a written apology to our audience.
Okay.
And everyone you've ever hurt, you will also be canceled.
Well, that's fine. I'm fine with that. I agree to those terms.
Okay, you're canceled.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. I'm never going to apologize.
I'll see you next time on Church is Canceled.
Yes, you will.